Hello, my name is Chad Kalstowakin. I'm a member of the Player Development Group, and we're here today to introduce a hitting series that we'll be putting together over the next few weeks focused on the foundations of hitting. There's a lot of resources out there that you can find, and we encourage you to do that. We just wanted to put something together to provide common terminology for coaches and parents and common methods to how we're teaching some of the basics of hitting. So what we'll start with today are the grip and the stance of a good swing. So starting with the grip. Things to focus on the grip are just not to have extremes in your grip, and I'll give you the two examples of extremes. First example is you have your big first knuckles lined up, and this just doesn't feel comfortable. Your elbows start to get pointed out. You can get loaded, but then in the extension and then release of the swing, your hands want to twist. Okay, so that's the first extreme. The second extreme is going to be your door knocking knuckles lined up. So these are your door knocking knuckles, and this other extreme is where then your elbows will feel tight to your body. You don't feel comfortable trying to load, okay, but you are able to extend and release. So that's the other extreme. So you will find resources, you will find coaches that explain the grip in a way that is lining up your door knocking knuckles. We are not telling the girls to do this. We are telling them to take your top hand door knocking knuckles and line them up in between your big first knuckles and your door knocking knuckles. Okay, so whatever ends up being comfortable for the player, for me, it's a little closer to my larger knuckles, about right here. I feel like I'm in a good, comfortable starting spot where I can get loaded, and then I can also extend and release in the finish of my swing. So that's a good grip right there. Top hand, door knocking knuckles lined up in between. Let's get into the stance. So the stance aspect of the swing, we're going to start roughly shoulder width apart with our feet, and then take about half a step either way. And one thing you might notice right away is this looks like a fairly wide stance, which it is, and we'll get into the reasoning why we want to do that in future videos, but just know that if you're comparing this to other resources that you found, it's going to be a fairly wide stance. Okay, so we have our nice wide stance. The positioning of our feet, so we'll start with the back foot. So the back foot, what's important here is this gets pointed perpendicular to home plate. The reason that's important is we can then feel our power, feel the weight go down the inside of our leg, and we'll be able to push and drive, get that hip drive with that big toe a lot easier and provide a lot more power in our swing with having that foot perpendicular. A lot of times the common flaw you'll see is that foot starts to open up and point more towards the catcher. Front foot, okay, so a lot of times that'll be the same distance off from home plate, which is fine. Otherwise you can have it a little bit more off of home plate than your back foot. We just don't want it out in front and kind of close off that swing. Okay, so have it either the same distance off of home plate or just slightly further off of home plate. As for the positioning of the toes and where you're pointing that foot, you can have it same as the back foot and that it's perpendicular to home plate. What I like to do in my preference is to open that front foot up just a little, maybe like a 45-degree angle. So for me as a right-handed batter, that foot will be pointing slightly in the direction of first base. Okay, so now that we have our feet positioned, we can talk about maybe our mid body and how we're going to be in an athletic stance. Okay, so knees are bent, chest is slightly out over home plate, and our butt is pointed back a little. Okay, so again, just from this angle. Okay, so my knees are bent, athletic position, my chest is out slightly over home plate, and my butt is out. Okay, so the opposite, or just a flaw there, would be my chest is, and I'm more sitting down rather than in an athletic position where my chest is out over, kind of over my knees, over home plate. Okay, from there we'll talk about our hands and our arm positioning. Okay, so if you just take your good grip, set the bat on your shoulder, and then lift off a couple inches, you're going to be in a really good position. Okay, some keys to look for are, number one is forming a box. So if you look at the bat, my forearm, my arm, and my shoulders here, that forms a nice box. Okay, and this is a really good indicator that we're in a good position for our stance. Okay, other things to pay attention to or flaws that you might see. Okay, you'll notice my knob is pointing slightly in the direction of the catcher, which is a good indicator, and my barrel is coming back behind my head. Okay, so flaws that you'll see. The barrel kind of on the side of the player's head with the knob pointing directly down to the ground, or you'll have that barrel pointing back behind you and the knob pointing straight across. Okay, so get that flaw corrected there so that the knob's pointing down and the barrel's out and back here. Okay, so that'll get you in a good starting stance. From here, we'll start talking about the load. We'll talk about swing sequence, bat path, and extension. So please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get notified of upcoming videos in our hitting series. So thanks for watching, and look forward to seeing you on the next one.